Bonjour à toutes et à tous, moi je m'appelle Siu-yee et vous êtes bienvenus sur ma chaîne. I'm just playing with you guys. I'm not about to do this whole video in French. But I will be talking about the different methods that you can use to learn a foreign language without spending too much money. Many of the methods I'm going to discuss are actually completely free, but some of them you do have to pay for. I just want to make sure that this video includes all of the options available to you, whether you want to spend money or not. Overall though, most of these methods are pretty accessible, especially if you have access to the internet. If not, you can always go to the library, get a library card, and have access to their computers. I also would like to preface this video by saying that no, I did not solely learn French from the methods that I'm about to list. I absolutely had formal education in French all of high school, and then I took maybe 2 semesters in college, one as a refresher and then another advanced oral French course. But I absolutely think it's possible to fully learn a language from some of these online sources. I've had some experience learning languages and kind of feeling uncomfortable with having an accent and trying to get my point across in a different language, and I really want to discuss some of the tips that helped me understand how locals speak and trying to have a conversation with them without sounding too strict or rigid in my word choice or grammar form. If you are someone who has never tried learning a foreign language, I think it's so important to learn grammar in your own language first. If you have that down, it makes it so much easier to pick up a different language and learn the vocab as well as the grammar, because then you'll be able to understand why certain sentence structures are formatted one way, and you'll know the job that each word has in a sentence. If you want to learn the basics, I honestly just suggest going online, looking up the language that you want to learn, and finding articles or lesson plans for free online that actually teach you the grammar, the conjugations, and the basic vocab that you'll want to know to learn a language. I know it's kind of boring, but that material is absolutely accessible online, and I can even pull up a web page right now for you to see an example. Now, if you're someone who finds sentence structure and rote memorization kind of boring, it can help to view language learning as a bit of a game. I and many others have used the app Duolingo. It is well known for its aggressive notifications saying that you haven't practiced French, Italian, or whatever, but I do have to applaud the way that the app kind of makes language learning into a game. Like, you can earn points, you can have daily streaks, and I personally really like that they don't just test your vocab, your grammar, but they also test your listening and comprehension skills. Because if you only know how to read French but you can't really pronounce or understand it when you hear it, it's simply not as useful as you would want it to be. And I think Duolingo does a really great job of that, but if you're someone who's really into the grammar and you want to learn all the nitty-gritty details, maybe it's not the best. Next up, there's also Quizlet, which is great for learning vocab. I know Quizlet was life in high school, especially when we had to study for finals, AP exams. Quizlet has everything. There will definitely be flashcards on language courses on there. You can probably look up any language and find some, and then you can just learn them, go through the whole rote memorization process. The great thing about Quizlet is that there's both an app version and a web version, so you can kind of take that on the go. Next up is Babbel. I personally have not used it. I know that this is a paid service and that students get a discount if you use it. I know it really promotes conversations, and if you're someone who's looking for that type of thing, then definitely try Babbel out and look at all the things that it has to offer. Next up are resources that you can use to improve your listening skills. You need to learn how to understand how local people speak, because oftentimes they will be speaking at a much faster rate than you are accustomed to in your little listening exercises. The way that you can do this is by actually listening to podcasts in your target language. Some of my absolute favorite podcasts to listen to while I'm learning a foreign language are absolutely all of the coffee break language series and podcasts available. And they do have some ads in between, but they're like pretty long episodes depending on what type of podcast you're listening to. And they go through vocab, they go through grammar, they go through conversations, listening, comprehension, everything. And you can just listen to this while you're doing something else. And even if you're not paying attention, at least you're kind of getting used to the sounds, and that's what's so priceless about it. But they have a lot of languages to choose from, and they keep getting better and better with their content, so it's all very educational, and they format it in such a way that is super digestible to anyone learning a language. And if you want to, you can purchase their bonus material online. But I honestly think that the podcast is where the true wealth of information lies. Some recommendations are, if you're learning Italian, I suggest learning with Lucrezia, and then innerFrench if you're learning French, because they are both really great and it's fun hearing about their day and some of the topics they talk about. So I highly recommend them if you're looking for a good Italian or French podcasts, but there are so many more in different languages, so do not be just limited to that. Next up, for improving your listening skills, listening to music in your target language. Oftentimes, you don't understand anything they say in the music. I think it's so fun trying to decipher what they're actually saying, along with introducing yourself to new words that may not be a part of the formal language, and in fact, it'll probably be slang of some sort. Like in French, you have verlan and you have no idea what it means. Like femme becomes meuf, kiffer is to like. You might be introduced to more things. So I highly recommend listening to music, both to understand the language and to learn new words outside of your typical grammar and vocab textbook. Next up is reading. Recently, I learned more about how extensive reading in a foreign language can help you understand the language a little bit better. Now, obviously, if you don't have $10 every time you finish a book to get a new one, again, please go get a library card. It is such a great investment and it is free. It is a free investment in your own education. Love that. Reading books can be really fun, especially if you actually pick a book that you've read before in English and then read it in French. I read The Count of Monte Cristo freshman year of high school. Now I'm currently trying to read it in French, and I've been trying to do that for like the past 4 years now, I guess. I just keep forgetting about it. I've just gotten really lazy with reading, to be honest, but it's a really great way to learn even different tenses, because if, for example, in French they use the passé simple, which is typically not something that you speak, it's something that you read. So reading long format books will even teach you a different tense that is not popular in that language's grammar. But if you're not really a book reader, you can always read online articles or newspapers and just read them in these short formats and try to understand what the article is saying. If you also don't like articles, whenever you're traveling next, just pick up a magazine in that target language. Honestly, read the ads. You know, it helps you practice the name of clothing articles, how much something costs. Sometimes they'll interview a high-profile person and you'll get to learn more about them through that target language. Now, if you need more practice, I personally really like watching TV shows, movies, and YouTube videos. Nowadays, there are subtitles available in many different languages, as well as actual audio dubbed over the original audio. I will say that I personally like watching movies and TV shows in their original language rather than hearing a dubbed version, just because I like understanding the original intent of a scene and what the tone was supposed to be. But if you like dubbing things over, that is always a great way to understand something, especially if you already know what they said in English. If you're rewatching a TV show, it'll definitely help you with the comprehension. But if you want to take it a step further than that, then I highly recommend looking at TV shows from the country itself. One of my favorite French TV shows is Call My Agent, which is the way that they list it on Netflix, but it's really 10%, and it's just like a funny, cute little show, some drama. But the best part about that show is that they would bring these actual French actors playing as themselves, because the show is about talent agents basically, and it's really fun if you've seen a lot of French movies to kind of see these actors playing as themselves coming to guest star on the show. But besides that, you can also watch Plein Coeur. There's Marseille, which I never finished watching. If you like Italian, the show Baby is good. But yeah, those are just my suggestions. Oh my god, how could I miss this? You guys need to watch Lupin. It was like easily in the top 10, maybe 1 or 2 in the US at one point, and I have not met one person who has watched the show except for my mom, who watched it with me, and my one friend who I forced to watch one episode. Literally no one else has watched the show, and it's so amazing, and it features Omar Sy, who's like my favorite. He was in Les Intouchables. Oh my god, I cannot wait for part 2. I think it's coming in the summer. But please, if you have watched Lupin, leave a comment below, because I want to know how much you love the show and we can bond. Thank you. Which brings me to my last point. There are also a lot of YouTubers. My favorites were actually Damon and Joe, and they had this perfect channel together. I was obsessed with them when I was like 17, and now they have separate channels, so go check out Damon Dominique and Joe Franco, because they are also avid language learners and they love traveling. But if you want channels that actually help you practice the language, I highly suggest innerFrench, which is one of the podcasts I mentioned, and Learning with Lucrezia, because I recently found out that she also has a YouTube channel. So she does vlogs fully in Italian, and I think they're pretty fun to watch. Next up, if you don't mind spending a little bit of money, I think taking an online course could be good. There is this great website called edX that has a lot of different courses, not just language courses. You actually watch these little videos, and then you do like little worksheets and you fill out quizzes online. If you want, you can even pay to have the certificate of completion for the course, but otherwise it's completely free, and I highly recommend recommend that. Next up, there is a website called italki where you can actually purchase courses from language teachers, and you can schedule a class with them where they actually teach you lessons and they speak to you via video chat, and I think it sounds really fun. I've never done it myself, but I've been kind of toying with the idea of doing that. I just don't really know what language I want to use it for because I want to spend my money wisely. So it's something that I've been thinking about, and actually Joe Franco, the YouTuber I mentioned before, she actually recently posted a video about her journey learning Egyptian Arabic, and I thought it was so cool how she even films herself taking the class and how much she learned from that. So definitely check that video out. I'll leave it linked down below if you're interested. Now I'll let you guys in on a little secret. I am currently enrolled in a community college that I never actually taken a class at. I literally signed up, I got in, I picked some random major. I think it's like a certificate of bookkeeping. I think that's what my major is. However, just being enrolled, I think allows me to take a language course there. They actually do have online courses, and from what I remember, I would be paying around $500 for a 3-credit class in learning, I don't know, German or Italian. If you don't mind spending that much money, I think a lot of community colleges actually offer this. It's not that cheap, but it's also not as expensive as you might think. If you're serious about language learning, I don't think $500 is that big of a deal, but I definitely recommend paying a lot of attention to the class and getting as much as you can out of it. And last but not least, the best way to learn a language on a budget is by traveling on a budget. I know that this is easier said than done, but it's definitely possible to do. I personally have not gone on a trip because of obvious reasons. The last time I did travel, I ended up buying a round-trip flight to Paris for $286. Unheard of. But the thing is that I booked my ticket 6 months in advance in like June of 2019. So definitely a lot of waiting, but it's possible. To learn more about the culture, I think travel is so important, and it can teach you things that you wouldn't otherwise learn from a textbook. Thank you guys so much for watching. I might be making more videos on this topic, especially as it's something that I'm very passionate about, as you can tell, but it's also something that I really want to relate to living a frugal lifestyle that is also rich in culture and rich in learning new things. If you're someone who is not subscribed to my channel right now and you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. And for those of you who have not watched Lupin, you can still comment below and tell me about your experiences with language learning. Au revoir!